Billionaires have added a staggering $1.7 trillion to their wealth since the pandemic began, while Americans are being crippled by rising prices. You know, I looked at this story. I love, Truth Out, they do a great job. I didn't get the connection here about, okay, yeah, people are making trillions of dollars, and it somehow has to do with COVID. The two didn't fit. I mean, one is, yeah, they're making money for a lot of other reasons, not really COVID. But you raise an issue in the way you analyze this. Talk to me about it.
Well, one of the big things that happened at the start of the pandemic, obviously, is you had a lot of small businesses close their doors. You know, people, lockdown orders, whatever it is you want to call them, small businesses did have to close down. Most of them thought, okay, 2 weeks and we're good. But it became longer than that. And so Americans needing things had to turn to companies that could deliver it to their homes.
Big box companies and delivery companies.
You know, Amazon already had, the market edge on that. Walmart had rolled out their, 2-day delivery on items just a couple years prior to that, so they were a direct competitor as well. But it became the only people that could stay in business, the only people that could really profit off of this were the big box stores. While your local, maybe a little mini mart that you have that you use, a local grocer, they get pushed out of the way. And again, the Krogers and the Publixes as well made buku money,
right,
while at the same time raising their prices.
Farron, what is the money? How much are we talking about increases in the wealth of these folks?
Well, we've got, overall the 1.7 trillion, and they did, of course, here. You've got Bezos went from 113 billion to 150 billion. Yeah. Bill Gates from 98 billion to 130 billion. The Walton family, they saw their wealth grow by 27%.
Yeah.
So they're at
20, so I think you raise a good issue. When I first looked at this, Truth Out, you're really trying to force an issue. I think that's at least part of it. I think it's a good answer to what's going on here. It created like Bezos, you just described a $40 billion increase. That makes sense when they're delivering it to the people.
Well, and all of this inequality comes at the same time, obviously. Americans are losing their jobs. They're being furloughed, laid off, whatever it is. Their income goes down. Their buying power is still down because of inflation and because of price gouging.
Yeah.
While these people are hoarding all of this money, they're not reinvesting it, right? They're not giving people raises. They're not expanding and saying, well, come work for us. Yeah. That's the problem, is the wealth inequality.
In other words, the race to the bottom continues, even when the bottom was really ugly during the COVID crisis.
Oh, yeah.
Inflation is out of control, and the Biden administration is raising interest rates to fight it. But is that the smartest move? Right now, to join me, I have Michael Bixby, the fire-breathing progressive, standing in for Farron Cousins this week. Michael, as I look at this case, you have all of the talking heads all over the place about the fact that the Fed should do this and Fed should do that. But there are some pretty important points that they're making about raising interest rates and how it's potentially going to bring on a recession.
No, that's exactly right. So that's exactly what they're talking about, is the natural reaction to this of, we've got to keep the prices down. And you notice what some of the Fed is saying, we actually want to really bring wages down. Right. Is part of what the goal is to be accomplished here. And absolutely, there's a real risk. In fact, it's the consensus that if the Fed keeps this up, that what you're going to get is at best some sort of maybe if it's not a full-blown recession, you're going to have some contraction. So you're talking about something that's obviously going to have negative effects.
The problem with recession, as you know, is most of the time we don't even see it until it's almost over. And what I thought was so remarkable is Janet Yellen coming out and saying, well, there's a couple things I didn't see coming. I didn't see the potential for recession, and I didn't see inflation. What scares the hell out of me about that is that's her job. And it was almost as if she said the whole administration was asleep. They were asleep on this issue.
And if you think about that, Pap, I mean, this is complicated, and I don't want to say oversimplify it, but at the same time, some of this is fairly elementary. I mean, what happened in 2020 and 2021? We printed trillions of dollars. the natural effect of that, of saying, well, what is the likely cause of this going to be? Is that going to cause inflation or deflation? I mean, if you ask it on a very elementary side, it's like, well, that's much more likely to cause inflation. And there's a lot of complicated effects of that. I appreciate that, but you're right. We have the best minds, or supposedly the best minds, who should be looking out for this and saying, how are we going to manage?
Yeah, how do you say never saw it coming? Okay, it was like we heard the same thing about the economic crash with the mortgages. Never saw it coming. And you ask yourself, well, my God, who's at the wheel? And it doesn't seem to make any difference when we're talking to these economists, because they didn't see either the crash coming, they didn't see this coming, they didn't see inflation coming, they didn't see potential for recession coming. They don't talk about what you talked about, is that the end result is to lower wages and potentially put millions of people out of jobs as this progresses.
Right, and you want to say how is, if you bury your head in the sand, you can miss a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
If you choose to ignore it. But the ultimate consequence here, it's not going to affect the people at the top, the people who didn't see it. What you're going to see is the most damage is going to happen on the bottom end. It's going to happen for the lower wage workers already, who are going to be harmed.
Right,
even
gated
further.
communities are not going to feel this.
Correct.